What does gutsy mean to you, my friend?
Gutsy means everything to me. It means that you do not have to be brave to be bold. And I wake up every day asking myself, how can I be bold as heck today? And my life and the people around me, all of that proves that you do not have to be brave to be bold. Do it scared and do it gutsy.
Welcome to the Gutsy Podcast, the show where you learn how to own what you actually want and shift the mind junk that's been holding you back. I'm Laura Ora, keynote speaker, coach, and your guide to help you get clarity, build confidence, and make the gutsy moves that change your life. Each week, I'm going to help you simplify things by teaching you how to get out of your head while stepping into action. This way you can achieve all those life shifts that you've been overthinking. Your desire, that drives you. But gutsy, that's what gets it done. You ever feel like I'm doing all the right things? Why do I feel completely exhausted? You're showing up, you're getting things done from the outside, it looks like everything's working. Guess what? Internally, you're running on fumes. And what's frustrating is rest doesn't always fix it. Most of us have been taught about rest as this surface level type of thing. It's take a break or go on vacation or take a nap or sleep more or watch a movie. But if your exhaustion is coming from how you're operating, how you're thinking, how much you're holding, those quick fixes don't even touch it. Today, I'm joined by Dr. Erin Wilson, and we're talking about a different kind of rest. Strategic rest, in fact. The kind that actually supports your energy, your leadership, your decision-making, and the life that you are trying to build. We get into why so many high-achieving women feel stuck in cycles of burnout, what it looks like to create rest that actually works for you, and how to shift out of constantly pushing without losing momentum. If you've been feeling successful on paper, but completely drained behind the scenes, this episode is for you. Dr. Erin Wilson is the CEO and principal consultant of Design Ideal Consulting, where she helps leaders and teams thrive through relationship intelligence, strength-based leadership, and her strategic rest in leadership framework. With over a decade of experience designing transformative team experiences for corporations, municipalities, and higher ed, Erin equips teams to communicate, collaborate, and lead with impact, all without burning out. She's the co-founder of Strategic Rest Summit, co-author of Strategic Rest and Leadership, and co-host of the Power Nap Live Show, where she challenges hustle culture and redefines leadership as relational, sustainable, and human-centered. If you haven't caught on, Dr. Erin is going to teach us how to rest, but in a way that it actually feels good. Let's get into it. Dr. Erin, my friend, welcome to the Gutsy Podcast.
I could not be more excited to be here. I am fighting a cold, so I'm so excited. But this was all I could think about for the last few days, going like, my voice has to come back so I can talk to Laura. So I'm excited to be here.
Well, I'm glad that your body and your voice said, "Okay, I got a little bit of time. We can do this today. We can do a little bit of a sprint because I just know that this is about to be electric." So,
Oh, let's do it.
so talk to me about your relationship with strategic rest, because something tells me that maybe you went through a learning experience of your own to find this out, maybe the hard way, maybe not so much, to then be able to teach this to others.
Absolutely. So listen, I was a high performer that kept asking myself, why am I exhausted when I'm successful? Right? Like I'm successful, like there should be some reprieve when I get to each one of these next check marks that people kind of like told me were the next steps for myself. And I was still like exhausted. I was totally a part of hustle culture, which just really trains output and not recovery, right? So I had my first stress-induced seizure and I knew something
Wow.
had to change. I was just chasing titles, saying yes to every project, everything, because that is what people told me was required to be successful and to get where I was trying to get. But I then discovered kind of on this journey trying to understand like how successful people are still taking care of themselves. How are they still doing all the things when we all have the same amount of time in the day? And what I discovered is really that people who are highly successful are not using rest as a reward. They're using it as a strategy, right? And so that led me to start doing other things around it, which led me and a colleague to writing a book about strategic rest in leadership and creating a framework so that other people would be able to be practitioners of strategic rest as well.
Oh my gosh. Listen, I I feel you because my husband has epilepsy, so I can completely understand the terrifying moment of a
Yes.
seizure. So I just want
Yes.
to give you so much love in that. I have to imagine that was just terrifying for you and everyone else in your life.
Yes, absolutely. For my husband, it was absolutely terrifying, especially not that it's better when it's onset earlier in your life, but you have more time to kind of understand and prepare and do things. Mine was completely late onset, right? So I lived more of my life without epilepsy than I did with it, right? And then to find out that it was really like stress induced was something that made me start to feel like, was this something that could have been avoided, right?
Mm.
What could that have looked like? And I started to do work around realizing that rest is the force multiplier that nobody really talks about. It's kind of the thing that happens on my show, Power Nap Live. I have recently been talking about Olympians, right? And how rest is one of their big strategies, but no one talks about that. They talk about how they hit the gym, they talk about how they eat, they talk about all of these different pieces, but recovery is a huge component of how they are the top of the top of the top. But we don't talk enough about how it's not just the thing that they get once they get the medal around their neck. It is the thing that got them the medal around their neck. And so we've got to be loud about that while other people are talking about how to be successful. Rest has to be a big part of that conversation.
Yeah, I just had a light bulb moment when you were talking. Rest, if we reframe, is simply recovery. I
Simply recovery. Can you imagine? That is how we've been living in hustle culture. We've been convinced that rest is lazy when it's literally one of the largest keys that successful people, high performing people, the people who we look at and go, ooh, I want to do like them, these people are resting. And they're not just using it like a reward, they use it as a strategy. We have to understand that people don't fail from lack of effort, right? It's really that they're failing from this invisible depletion that we've allowed people to let us say is okay. And it's not. It's not. It's a huge puzzle piece that for some reason when we're doing our 500-piece puzzle, we throw that one away and think we're going to get a complete picture, and it's just not possible.
yeah. I I know that so many people listening right now are like, I just have such a weird relationship with rest because
Yep.
I feel bad for doing it.
Yep.
It feels unnatural. Or
Yep.
when I slow down, then my brain gets noisy.
Hmm. Hmm.
Talk to me
Hmm.
about that place where there's this kind of shame and guilt for quote unquote slowing down or resting.
Absolutely. That's one of the first things that we have to combat, right? I tell people, because I hear it all the time, I do sessions about this and workshops. People bring me in to do keynotes around strategic rest. Honestly, that's what lots of my calendar looks like this day, these days. After writing this book with my colleague, Dr. Kelly Dixon, we talk about it all the time. And afterwards, people walk up to me and go, like, I feel guilty. I'm a caregiver. I'm a parent. I'm a this, I'm a that, right? And the question I ask them back is, shouldn't the guilt be that you don't show up as the best version of yourself for the people that you say you care the most about? If you're going to feel guilty, that's where to put the guilt. That to
Mm.
me is where to put the guilt, not on you choosing it as a strategy so that you can be the best version of yourself when you're in each one of the spaces that you're in, when you're trying to do the work that you have to do, but not showing up when you literally have the key to being able to do that, right? So we've got to remove that guilt from that piece. Now, so much of that is because strategic rest is different from rest, right? People tend to just kind of think of rest as being sleep. Let me get some naps, which I love nap. We wrote the nap framework, right? But sleep, rest is not just sleeping. And that's to me where we start to kind of fold back the pieces around guilt that happens. Rest can happen in several different ways, right? I always forget her name when I'm trying to say, but I think it's Dr. Smith. She has another name too. But if you're look up the 7 types of rest, right? If you're near your phone or whatever the case is, or whenever you finish listening to this, because don't stop listening, okay, until the end. But look up the 7 types of rest. And what we find is that there are different ways for us to feel rested in our framework, the NAP framework, we talk about that heavily in the nurture part. So NAP, N is for nurture, and I'm sure I'll talk a little more about what NAP framework stands for. But in that, we talk about how nurture is not just rest. It's not just sleep and mental recovery and regulating your nervous system. It can also happen through learning, right? But it also can happen in the communities that we're a part of. Have you ever taken the time to stop and go on a really great brunch with some friends and you were exhausted before you left the house and put that bra on,
Oh,
right?
listen, I hear that.
We all know that's a serious commitment, okay? So once you did that, but you sat and y'all talked and you caught up and you did whatever it was, you leave going like, oh my goodness, the energy that's there just makes you feel like you can take over the world, right? If you've built the right community. That's a whole nother conversation. But so rest doesn't just happen in a sleep vacuum. It happens through learning something new. How do we build ourselves through the community that we keep? And we talk about that in the book, but also again, through really having those boundaries, right? Understanding your energy inputs and then disrupting or interrupting chaotic stress cycles that throw you out of bounds.
So good. So nurture, we're strategic rest. Part of that is nurturing, pouring back in, filling your cup up, right? Like
Mhm.
taking care of the parts of you that are not related to the work that you're doing or the goal that you're moving towards. Like
Yes.
we're pouring back into our human self here.
It's all about protecting your cognitive and emotional baseline. That's what we talk about in nurture. It's about stabilizing the human system, really, is what it comes down to, right? Because you can't perform at a high level from a dysregulated nervous system. So, nurture, we teach you that in the NAP framework, really how to use that in order to be able to protect that baseline that's needed for you to continue to practice strategic rest and be a high performer.
Okay. So let's just keep going with the framework because I feel like we got momentum here. So
We're
talk
already there, right?
we're
Okay,
we're
so
we're
we've
in it.
we're deep. So we've got the NAP framework, right? So we just talked about nurture. The next is assess, right? So A is for assess, and that's really about where we increase self-awareness, okay? Like we have to start saying we have to realize that most exhaustion really goes unnoticed until we experience burnout, right? We
Yeah.
go, oh, we can do it. I just have to make it to my next vacation. Oh, next weekend will be calmer. Oh, I'll get an hour tomorrow. So we don't realize it until we now have this spiral of burnout, right? So it's important for us in assess for us to ask ourselves some key questions that help us invoke self-awareness pretty much. So what drains me? What restores me, right? Most people, when I do a session with folks, I literally ask them that question, and you would be mind blown how many people go, I never even asked myself that before, right? So, literally, what drains me? what restores me. Really asking, when is my thinking sharp? When is it foggy? Right? Most people don't even realize the difference between when those things are happening for them. And then also, where am I leaking energy? What patterns am I in that just kind of repeat, right? Because awareness always is the first step to sustainable change. There's no way to experience sustainable change without first having that self-awareness.
Absolutely. Listen, you can't change what you're not aware of.
You cannot change what you're not aware of. So assess is in the cycle because it's required constantly for you to be able to do that. And then next is prioritize. Okay. So remember, this is the NAP framework and she's cute. Okay. But she's also fierce. All right. So prioritize is what the P is for. And this is really about how you deliberatively uh allocate your energy, right? So a lot of times we get to the first step, we go, oh, we need to nurture ourselves, we're doing it, maybe there's bubble baths or whatever the case is. Then we go, dang it, like maybe I shouldn't always be having this meeting at the first thing on Monday because it wrecks my entire week, right? But what we've got to get to, and why the NAP framework is so important and why it helps you really be able to practice strategic rest, is because it teaches you to prioritize, right? Not everything deserves your best cognitive hours.
True
Not
story.
everything deserves that, right? So it's really when you start to think about prioritize, you've got to start aligning effort with impact, right? Protecting those peak mental wellness moments that you have in hours and windows, right? Because some of us have really peak mental cognitive windows. For me, it's really late at night, right? If I get to the quietness past like 10, 11, 12, I know that's wild for my folks who are listening with kids going like, girl, bye. Right? Yours may be different, okay? I'm an elder millennial with no kids, so mine can be super late, right? So, but for me, I start cooking, man. 10 to 2 a.m. is prime. So why would for me, sleep is not where I prioritize that every day. If I have a complex project, I may sleep during the day so that I know that I can be at my best during that time where I know my brain is going to fire on all cylinders, right? And then also really starting to reduce low value depletion. Okay. It's all
Mm.
about deciding what truly matters. We have taught ourselves not to prioritize things, but in order to practice strategic rest, in order to use rest as a strategy, we've got to be real with ourselves about what truly matters. Because busy is not the same thing as effective. If you don't hear anything else I've said today, busy is not the same thing as effective. Say it with me, church. Busy is not the same thing as effective, okay? And for some reason, we've tricked ourselves into thinking that that's the case.
Mm. How do we shift that? Because that's
Ooh,
it's a habit, right?
it's a habit.
Being busy is a habit. And I mean,
Yep,
let's be honest, our society and jobs kind of reinforce that we have to
yep,
be busy
yep,
to be productive, to
yeah,
quote air
yep,
quote productive,
yep.
to get ahead, to feel good about
Mhm,
ourselves, to hit these
mhm,
different markers. So how do we
mhm.
break that?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, we have to realize that some of these people who are busy are just looking busy. Have you ever worked with someone who always looks frazzled and busy, but you know they have not done anything all day? All day. So stop letting that be the frame for the way that you live your life. That's number 1. Because we've got to stop thinking that because people look busy, again, that they've been effective. If you are not able to communicate to the people that supervise you or work with you that you're effective without constantly showing movement, then that's a whole nother conversation that we need to have, that I coach people around when I do executive coaching, right? So that being busy or looking, given the appearance of busy, should not be the only way that you're able to prove to people that you're effective. So we're gonna set that to the side for a second, so I can explain a little bit about the simple way to kind of use nap. Okay, so the best way to start is really to nurture first. You've got to stabilize your capacity. Right now, most people aren't experiencing it because you are not being intentional about stabilizing literally what your capacity is, right? How can I nurture myself first in those ways that we talked about, right? Of course, remember sleep, mental recovery. Even before this, and Laura, I hope you don't mind me sharing this, but I was so tickled because before we started this, Laura literally said, "Can I have 2 seconds to just center myself? Whatever you'd like to do during that time is fine, but I want to choose to center myself." That literally was nurture. She could have started our conversation hopping in, because here I am, no matter how cute I am, I'm staring at her, ready to go. She has me only for a certain amount of time. But in that moment, 5 seconds of her nurturing herself turned this into a fabulous conversation, right?
Mm,
Most
yeah.
people aren't going to go, "Stop nurturing yourself while I'm standing there looking at you." Okay. Like, but we have to stabilize our capacity. Assess is that second piece. We've got to jump in to start identifying patterns and drains. What is doing that to us? What time of day is it happening? One of my executive coaching clients recently decided that no meeting that they had would be over 50 minutes, like anymore. You cannot book a meeting with them over 50 minutes. Now, if it's something big, right, we all know there are some big strategic planning meetings that might require more time. But they were like, "I want the 10 minutes to either be able to go to the bathroom, to be able to prepare for my next meeting." And then what they saw was just literally their change without saying it or requiring it from other people started to trickle down. They started to see that meetings that were people that they supervise started to be that 50 minutes, that people started to be able to have time to actually talk before a meeting happened or feel more rested. So literally, it's not just us that we're resting for. We rest to create better spaces for the people around us so that creativity can live, so that well-being can be a part of our strategy. And finally, we've got to start, or the way to use nap is to prioritize, right? It's really about allocating energy intentionally. Whether we realize it or not, we do not allocate our energy intentionally. Most people don't. We have calendars for everything else. But most people, when I ask, I did a session the other day, a workshop for a really great community college in Baltimore. I asked, how many people have themselves on their calendar? And all of them look like, "We can do." Somebody literally yelled out, "We can do that." And I say, yes, why not? You schedule everything else. So why are you not scheduling time for yourself with intentionality, right? So rest is not about stopping. For all the people who say it is, it's not. I'm telling you right now, it's not about stopping. It's literally just about recalibrating for better performance. That's why it matters, because rest allows us to have better performance. And for some reason, we've stopped believing that. And I'm here to help people believe it again.
Yeah, I mean, it's so much about putting yourself back at the front of the line, noticing your energy. I really love the portion where you're like this kind of low value depletion and using like noticing when you're on. Like I'm thinking about your situation or your zone of brilliance time. At midnight, that's not the time for you to clean out your inbox.
Right.
Okay, like that's just
No,
not, I mean, are you going to be
no.
able to do it fast? Probably. But
Right.
it's not the best use of your time and energy when you're at your sharpest. I think about like when I write content
Yes.
in the morning, like between 9 and 11,
Yes.
I've got that. But if I have to
Yes.
sit down and write content at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, you are going to get absolute garbage out of me. Like, but the afternoon, I can, clean up some tasks, clean out my inbox, shuffle things around on my desk, that stuff that takes way less brain power. That's what I'm hearing you say, right? Am I
Yes.
understanding that right? Like we're being very
Yes.
strategic about how we're using our energy when we're using it. That's part of a strategic rest.
It's absolutely a huge part of strategic rest. It's literally what we're saying to you. When Dr. Dixon and I wrote that, that is exactly the point, right? But most people, unlike you, like you just literally fired that light bulb. While it may be something that you were doing and didn't realize it, now that you have that awareness, right? You assessed it and now you're going to start prioritizing. I promise you even more that now in the morning when you have that key point that you're like, I'm firing, you're going to start prioritizing the things that you really want to use all that power on, right? And you may have to bring me back because I'm going to ask you, how has that shifted even more of you seeing that my content is even better, right? And then you see that and your performance is better. So you start to feel better. You start to be able to do new things. You start to look at different ways in order to really like shift stuff because fatigue really erodes our judgment, our emotional control. So strategic rest really matters for what we're doing. It stress narrows our creativity and it also narrows our problem solving. So why would we not want to use a framework or a way of life that helps us be able to recover and improve our patience, our resilience, and really to use energy that drives performance more than just the hours that we work, right? It's important.
You are right on the edge of a huge shift. You can feel it. It's been building in the background. You've been getting visions of the future. It's like you can feel this monumental shift brewing just beneath the surface, and you're so ready for it. The question really becomes, how do I prepare for it? How do I get it? How do I create space for this in my life right now? Today, we've been talking about strategic rest, and part of what we do inside of Auraline is a little bit of an excavation project. A lot of that exhaustion comes from doing too many things that don't belong to you for too long. And allowing this next growth period to really come into your life, we've got to create space for it. We do that by moving or releasing whatever's been in the way. Your next chapter depends on your willingness to pull back, to evaluate, to be honest about what's working and what's not, and to create space for the growth of all of those seeds that you've been planting along the way. You're on the cusp of a big change, and I help you get it. Go to lauraora.com/clarity to book your free clarity session today. It is so important. And you know what's wild about this?
Yeah.
Is doing it opposite, not using strategic rest, pushing against every natural grain that we have, makes all of this 10,000 times harder. I mean, burnout is not easy to come back from.
It is not. How many times? Thank you. Can we put that on a shirt? We're going to put that on a shirt
absolutely.
Together.
You got
because
it.
That's what I don't understand. That's what I'm telling people. Coming back from burnout, the ramifications of burnout, how you have to gain people's trust back, how you have to literally build yourself back up after you experience that should be enough that you're willing to try anything not to do it. And for some of us to not do it again, right? So that's why this framework is so important. Like our brain it's a it's a biological system, not a productivity machine, right? Like the people treat it that way. But one of the things that I realize is that overworking is often fear kind of wearing a productivity costume, right? It's just our fear dressed up telling us that if we don't do this, we're not enough. And one of the biggest truths that I had to learn about myself is we are, you are, if no one hears it, you are fantastic without being this version of the overworked, the always together, the always whatever version of yourself that you think people require. And when you do that, you start to look for ways to sustain your high performance instead of just trying to make it. We
Yeah.
can't just survive. We've got to thrive out here, folks. And that's where the magic is. And strategic rest helps you to thrive and not just survive.
I think surviving is often a choice, and I think thriving is often a choice.
Ooh.
Like if we really just boil it down, at some point these things become choices. What am I going to
Mm-hmm.
continue? What am I going to allow? What cycle am I going to break? What am I going to choose to do instead? And I got
Mm-hmm.
to tell you, and I know that you've experienced this, it only takes a hot minute or two of you doing something that works well for you and you feel a little bit better
Yes.
for you to be like, oh, this is at my fingertips. Oh, things can be easier. Oh,
Yep.
this gets better. And
Yes.
you get a little appetizer of that. And it's like, how else can I do it? And it's often that first break of the cycle or making a habit change that's the hardest. But gosh, I'm telling you, friend, if you start to even with one piece and
Yep.
you realize that, hey, I can actually feel better, I don't have to feel like crap every single day. Okay, now we're moving in another direction.
You would think that that would not be revolutionary, right?
Yeah.
I don't have to feel like crap every day. Maybe we need to have pop-up signs that say, yeah, that says that for people. I don't have to feel like crap every day. And that is one of the reasons why we wrote the framework, right? So that people don't have to feel like crap every day. Because grinding, everybody's out there like, I'm grinding, I'm out here working hard. And I tell people all the time, my goal is to never work hard. I'm not going to lie to you at all. If I have to work hard, then maybe it's not the thing that I'm called to do, right? Now, I will be intentional about the work I do. Lots of people who are around me know I have lots of things on my plate, but the way that I'm able to do it is because I realize that grinding or working hard or having a lot going on without recovery, that's just self sabotage with good branding. Okay. She's branded herself well, and I will not subscribe. Okay. Like, it really, every high performer, oftentimes they work hard so that they can rest. Think about I think about some of the richest people in the world, some of the people who have all of the things that lots of people wish that they had in some capacity, right? Oftentimes, one of the most important aspects of having a lot is that time is relative to how they want to use it, right? You don't have to wake up in the morning because you don't have to be somewhere to get money. You can vacation for long periods of time. You can do all of this stuff. So success is often built in order for people to have more ability to be able to rest. But for some reason, people don't pair those things together. By no means am I not saying that people who are successful don't work hard. They possibly do, right? But they are intentional about the way that they do it. And they definitely make sure that there are periods in order for them to have creativity, problem solving, and so much of that comes from recovery. Okay. Like sustainable success. And that's what we're looking for. You don't want to just be successful one time. What's the point of that, right? If that was the case, and I'm talking about the Olympics a lot because, of course, right now it's kind of going on, but if that was the case, no one would go back.
Yeah.
Think about how many people fight to get back, how decorated people are when they've done it more than once, right? Don't get me wrong, getting it once, I wish that there was something. Can I have gold medal for like best like speaker? Like, I don't know. If I could, I would. But the next year, I would go back to try to do it again because the success that we want, that you want, that hopefully everyone listening to this wants now and beyond is sustainable success, not just that one time, one off. And if it is one time, one off, grind on, sister girl, okay? But if you want to be able to sustain success, then that's where the NAP frameworks comes in. That's where strategic rest becomes so, so important, because sustainable success is always, it always outperforms burnout based strategies.
Mm.
Always.
I mean, it is strategic rest is part of the strategy.
It is the strategy.
It has to be. Yeah,
Exactly.
it's just doing it. I do have a question coming up in my brain that I want to ask
Sure.
you.
Sure.
What would you say to somebody that is surrounded by people that don't support or celebrate this? Because I
Mm,
think that's a real thing, whether it's from your boss, whether it's a coworker, whether it's a family member, or maybe it's your own teammates. I mean, people feel some kind of way about this. How do you manage this whenever you're surrounded by people that don't get it?
absolutely. When I hear people say that, the first thing I say is that's not their business. That's the first thing. Mind their business. Why are you telling people your business? Nurture, nowhere in nurture do we say that you have to tell people that you're now prioritizing how to stabilize your capacity, right? You again, I go back to the example of us before we started this conversation. You didn't say, are you okay if I do this? You said the way I start this is I do this, right? So here's the thing. If your boundaries are allowing people to tell you what you can do when it comes to making you be the best version of yourself, then we got to start there first. Okay? That's the first place, is that this has nothing to do with you. This has everything to do with me and what I need, right? So if that is the thing, if people around you aren't valuing strategic rest, then first to me, maybe do it quietly, right? Do it for yourself. And when they start to experience the better version of yourself and they ask you, you know what? You haven't yelled at me for like 3 weeks now. Tell them I've been practicing strategic rest. You want to know more about it? You want to know how you can help me do it more? So yes, this is, remember, a huge part of this is self-awareness, right? It's nurturing yourself, stabilizing your own human system, increasing your self awareness, and then you deliberatively figuring out how to allocate your energy. That has nothing to do with other folks. They're a part of it sometimes, and you may have to decide, you know what, I'm not going to take that phone call from this person after 10 o'clock anymore as a part of your strategy, but that's you. And for some reason, people have gotten into the habit of thinking that rest has to do with all the people around them, right? And yes, they can impact it, but you have to decide what it looks like for you. And I know people are thinking, now she said earlier she don't have kids, so she don't know what she's talking about, right? Kids make a lot of noise. Kids do all of these different pieces, or my husband or whoever is with you, your partner, whatever, right? But you can still decide what that needs to look like for you. Some of my clients have said, you know what, for me, I get up earlier than everybody in the house just so I can have 10 minutes of quiet. And that sets my whole day in a right space, right? So it's really about figuring out what works for you. And that does not, just like unsubscribing from someone does not require an announcement, deciding that you are going to practice strategic rest does not require an announcement or a bullhorn either. Okay.
Mm. Listen, Dr. Erin is just giving it to us straight today, and I am here for all of this
Right.
energy.
That's what this show is. And so I could not wait to come and just talk.
Do you know what? I feel like there's an opportunity here for you. Okay. I'm gonna slide this across the table and you do with it what you will, or just throw
Okay.
it out the window. If you had an app where every day you just sent a message like giving it to us straight, I think that you would do very well with that. I mean, I could use a little Dr. Erin in my ear every morning. I'm just saying.
Love, the wildest thing, Laura, is you are not the first person that says that.
I
Maybe I
mean,
really need to.
listen, I'm just
I might need to. I have a friend who always says, it's so funny because we were working on, she was working on her doctorate about a little bit before I was. And she was telling me one semester, she was like, oh, they're telling me I don't think I'm going to get to graduate this semester. And I said, what you finna do is
see.
graduate. And she said that, Erin, that changed my whole life. She said, so I would take you in my pocket. And when someone would say, I'm not gonna be able to do something, she would say, what I'm finna do is graduate.
I'm just saying, like, it's almost like those what is that, those cameos or things that you can request, like videos from celebrities and stuff. Like, I need a Dr. Erin video. Like, I need these couple of
Deal.
scripts. This is what I need.
I'm
But
gonna work on that. I'm gonna work on that, Laura. I love that.
I just think that there you might have a little gold mine with that. I think a really big shift that you've made for me, and I know for someone else today too, is that rest does not mean sitting.
Mm,
I think
come
that
on.
there's a there's a big, I don't know, just in my brain, it's like when you think about
Yep.
resting, it's like
Yep.
stillness,
Yep.
sitting,
Yep.
watching movies,
Yep.
taking a bath. Nothing
Mm,
wrong with any of those things if that's
mm,
what you
mm,
need.
mm,
But like, especially as a high achieving person,
mm,
I can sit for a little while,
mm.
but like that just doesn't do it for me. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like
Yes.
I like to be active, and I'll share um like a strategic rest for me is doing something that's productive but isn't like something that just feels good. Like
Yes.
I'm moving, I'm doing something, but
Yes.
I'm not burning myself out. It's usually not like a lot of brain power things like
That's what I was gonna say. It's not mentally taxing,
yes.
right? So yes, that's the first shift that has to happen, and you've made it. So I know your listeners can too, because that's the first thing. That strategic, that rest literally does not have to be that you're sitting still, right? It could be finding the time to listen to the podcast that you love, right? And thinking about not just listening to those words, but what's my next step after I do that? How do I make sure that monthly I get to connect with people who care about me, right? Even if it's 2 minutes and we all just show up in each other's driveways, right? And say hi. You have to figure out what that looks like for you. But that is the first thing that we challenge is that rest looks different. And once people start to open their mind to the fact that there's different types, then you can start to practice strategic rest, feel rested, and ultimately have what we're trying to gift everyone, which is that sustainable success. That's how to use it as a strategy. You're absolutely right. Oh, that gave me that made my shoulders shimmy. Okay, that's what I do this for.
Yeah, I it's that it's so much of just setting down these expectations that we've absorbed, or
Yeah.
a picture perfect whatever that we've seen online, or and really just coming back to like, what do I need? I think
Yep.
that's a great place to start. Like, what do I need? What would feel good to me right now?
Yes.
And then answering that honestly. What are some strategic rests, like different examples, either you
Mhm.
or your clients or people that you know? What are
Yep.
some different ways that you see strategic rest happening?
Well, I'll tell you one of my absolute favorite ones. So each month, a colleague of mine, we do what we call like we call it like a sister retreat is what we do, right? So she owns a consulting firm and also does some other things, and so do I. And so in this retreat, it's not long. There's some rules to it, right? The first one is we can't stay anywhere that's more than an hour away. So we don't need any air travel. We can drive to it, right? Then we always eat dinner at somewhere that maybe we haven't eaten before so that we experience something different and that we're learning something together. And then the final thing is that we kind of just talk about what's coming up for us, what worked before. I always try to make sure that we have a hotel room that it takes me back. It's so nostalgic. But you know how those hotel rooms have the doors that adjoin? So we
Yeah.
always get a room that adjoins so we can open the door and yell to each other through the door and talk
Awesome.
and laugh. Sometimes we literally just sit at the door the whole time and talk while we're there. But those retreats, sometimes they have spa. Sometimes, one time she asked me, what do you need? What do you need to feel rested in our time together? And I said, you know what would make me feel rested? All week, I've just wanted carrots and ranch. Like for a month, I've just wanted some carrots and some ranch, and I haven't been able to do that. And so she went, for my Texas folks, they'll know how serious this is. We have a grocery store called HEB in Texas, and it's a big deal here. So instead of, we canceled our reservations at the restaurant that we have, we literally walked around HEB, the grocery store, got the stuff to make ranch and carrots, and sat in a hotel room, and she ate ranch and carrots with me, right? So those are two of the things. Number one, finding a community of people who not just value rest, because you talked about that before, right? They don't just have to value rest, they need to value a rested you. Are you surrounding yourself with people who value arrested you? And that can look a lot of different ways. For me, gatekeeping is one of the ways that people don't realize that you're leaving people around you not feeling rested. I don't gatekeep. When people ask me, how did you do that? Because there's only one me. I'm one of one, right? Like you can have my same exact script and you're not going to do it the way Erin does it. And I know that. And so I live that fully, right? So I will tell you just about anything you want to know because I value the people I love around me rested. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So there are so many ways for you to do it. Remember, I talked about that 50 minutes, changing the way that you're doing that, literally asking yourself, you said it and I loved it. What do I need right now? What do I need today to show up as the best version of myself? Is literally you practicing strategic rest. So there's so many strategies. And what I love is that the executives that I tend to work with, once they start to be people who practice strategic rest, they start to also see the reward of it in the people that work for them and with them. They start to see people who are more creative. They start to see people who value the time that they're there and actually doing things instead of just this performative busyness, right? But they also feel valued and protected and that their psychological wellness matters. And we all want to work in places like that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a ripple effect in the best of ways.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
One more question, because I, I
Anything.
just I just got all this I have all these thoughts with you because you're just contagious like that. Talk to me about resting in a busy season. Because
Mm.
sometimes we're in
Mhm.
a sprint. Sometimes we're in a high tide. You know what I
Yep.
mean? Like sometimes things are just like all systems go. That's a very
Yep.
real thing.
Yep.
How do we implement or prioritize strategic rest when everything else is moving pretty quickly?
Absolutely. The biggest piece is that people often realize strategic rest has that they often think that rest has to be long, right? That I have to take a day off, that I have to do all of those things. And remember, micro rest matters, right? And in some seasons, it may be that micro rest is the only thing that you're able to do because high performers don't not have stuff to do. They have a lot of things to do. That's why this is a performance strategy, right? So it's important for us to look for those small ways. Is it just 10 minutes, right? Before you go to your next meeting to take a deep breath? Is it blocking off an hour on your calendar so that people can't put a meeting on there, right? Is it saying, okay, I'm going to spend 2 hours doing this work and getting as much of this done as possible, but then realizing I may need another hour, so I'm going to schedule that for the next day, right? It's about making these decisions that allocate your energy intentionally, that recognize what those patterns are, and then really focusing on how to stabilize your capacity. Okay. But we also have to realize in those busy seasons that sometimes slowing down literally is the fastest path forward. Sometimes just stepping away for a few minutes allows for your mind to recalibrate and you come back and see the thing that you hadn't seen the entire time that you were sitting there just highly focused on it. Strategic rest is how you win the long game. Okay. We can't outrun human biology. So if you want to win the long game, if you want to be successful over long periods of time in the most busy seasons that you have, but also in the seasons where you're not as busy, you've got to make sure that you prioritize rest. Because again, sometimes stepping away is literally the best path forward.
There it is. I'm going to stop it right there because that was magic to end on. So true. Dr. Erin, I think everybody in the world needs to know where to find and connect with you. So where can we find your magic?
Listen, this is exactly why I teach strategic rest. So, hey, if you enjoyed this conversation, because I know I did, come hang out with me on YouTube at Power Nap Live. I have a show, Dr. Erin Wilson, but my show is called Power Nap Live, where I talk about all this stuff. I talk about strategic rest. I talk about leadership in really fun and laughable ways that you can probably see here. And then the patterns that really kind of exhaust those high performers like yourselves, right? So, fair warning, I do not teach about bubble baths and candles, even though those can be really good spaces. But I do teach it as a performance strategy, how to rest. So you can find me, like I said, on YouTube. So Dr. Erin Wilson, Power Nap Live. You can look that up. But you can also find me at my consulting firm, Design Ideal Consulting, or Google me, baby, Dr. Erin Wilson. And I know you'll find me. You'll see this smiling face going like,
no doubt about it. We will link all of Dr. Erin's amazingness below in the show notes. And I got to know, I'm really excited for this answer. What does gutsy mean to you, my friend?
Gutsy means everything to me. It means that you do not have to be brave to be bold. And I wake up every day asking myself, how can I be bold as heck today? And my life and the people around me, all of that proves that you do not have to be brave to be bold. Do it scared and do it gutsy.
Is Dr. Erin's energy contagious or what? I'm literally like, that was strategic rest in its own. Just spending the last 45 minutes with Dr. Erin has been so enlightening. You know, when she was talking about what drains me versus what energizes me, this conversation with her energizes me. I'm ready to take on the world. Make sure you connect with her. I put all of her links as well as mine below in the show notes. My handle is @thatlauraora. And as always, until I see you next time, stay gutsy.